we will be talking about the 5 psychology principles of landing or home pages. I keep it simple for everyone today. For most of you, this applies to you as your home page, right? There are landing pages can be other pages of the website, but for most of you, this really just applies to your home page. So if you just have kind of one home page and all your other home pages, or all of your other pages are small, think of this talk as being relevant to your home page. Moving on. Who am I? Tori Moreno, the owner of Mindful Web Design. So a little over 3 years ago, I ended a 6-year career with the United States Navy. I was a nuclear technician. So on the aircraft carriers, you have 4,000 to 5,000 people on these massive floating cities, and they're powered by 2 nuclear power plants. So I was one of the technicians on those. And I ended that career in early 2018. And I knew that a career shift was kind of in the books for me. So I started learning web design and development before I got out. And I got my first shot when a friend asked me to build her an e-commerce site for $500. And so I said, all right, yeah, sure. Sounds good. I learned a ton of information. I learned about marketing. It was kind of the perfect foray into that career field. And then I started networking, of course. And I started going to, WordPress meetups, to business meetups. And then I found a few people that wanted $2,000 websites. So I was like, all right, there's something here. I kept doing what I was doing, and then soon found somebody, a bigger business owner that wanted a $5,000 website. And I was like, all right, there's definitely something here. And that's kind of when I decided to make it a full-time career and continued networking. And then I was at a meetup called Network After Work here in Seattle. And I met these few gentlemen that were telling me about this thing called BNI. And so I was like, all right, got to check this BNI thing out. Went to their chapter meeting, and I immediately fell in love. The charisma and the chemistry in that chapter, it was just amazing. And, a room full of 35 business owners at the time. Now our chapter is 40. I'm in the Seattle Professionals BNI chapter here in Seattle, and I'm currently the president of it. And BNI has been it has really provided so much growth for me as a business owner and an individual. And so I'm really thankful for all the time I've had in BNI thus far. Like I said, that was about 3 years ago. So in those 3 years, I've built dozens of websites for business owners. And about a year and a half ago, I started kind of breaking down all of the websites that I had built up to that point, and really digging into, sales psychology and user psychology. I started going beyond the learning, development, and design. And I said to myself, I'm helping these business owners. I need to be really good at sales. I need to get good at sales psychology so I can help them sell their products, sell their material, their services. And so around that same time, I started kind of breaking down all the websites up to that point. And I started comparing the ones that were really effective, that worked really well, that provided great results. They got the business owner a ton of leads. And then comparing those ones to the ones that still looked great, and the business owner was happy, but they weren't as effective. They weren't getting a tons of leads every single day, week after week. And, with all of the conclusions I was making from learning sales psychology and marketing psychology, I started kind of breaking these down, comparing them, and drawing a lot more conclusions from what works and what doesn't. And, then that was kind of, all of that info was kind of confirmed by the things I was learning from all the thought leaders in the industry and mentors. And so I'm here today to kind of share with you all of those insights about what really makes an effective landing page. So these are the 5 landing page psychology principles that I will be sharing with you today. Number 1, use storytelling to let people know they are in the right place. Number 2, communicate the benefits, because everyone is always asking, what's in it for me, right? Number 3, build trust. This utilizes the psychology principle of social proof, which is my favorite one. Number 4, educate and add value prior to making an offer. And this utilizes the rule of reciprocity. And then lastly, 5, make it easy to take action. All right. So why should you care? Well, You want to build a thriving business, and amongst many other things, you need leads to do that, right? We all need leads to build our business. The problem is that your website, your business website, is not building trust or communicating value. Now, I'm not saying all of you specifically, but what I find is that most business websites don't do a good job of building trust or communicating value. And so this is my mission. This is my job. Today, I will be giving you the 5 principles based on user psychology that you can use to design your home page on your website and get more leads. So what the heck is a landing page, right? So I'm going to show 2 examples of pages from a recent project that I did. And this is kind of the perfect project. I'm going to use examples from this project throughout the entire talk. You obviously can't see this, especially if you're on, I'm on a big 27-inch screen right now. If you're on a 15-inch, you definitely can't see what's going on. But this is really just to give you an example. These are 2 landing pages from the same website that I built very recently. This is Dr. Jessica Wendling. She has a business here in Seattle called Neurologic, and she does neurofeedback treatment. And it's a little bit more of a modern treatment, but it's really effective, and she's incredible at what she does. So what is the difference between these 2 pages? One of them is the home page. Here on the left, that is the home page. The one on the right, that is a specific product landing page. So her mainstay service is this neurofeedback treatment, right? And so when we sat down, we always flesh out goals, wants, needs, and we realized that this neurofeedback, like I said, it's a bit more of a new and modern treatment. It's going to take a lot of explaining, a lot of really intentional explanation to get people to understand what neurofeedback is, because that was the problem with their old website. It didn't have enough of, I would say, context to get people to understand what it was. So they were calling in, asking more questions, they were sending her emails, she was getting inundated, and she already kind of had, as a solopreneur, she had a really busy schedule, so she didn't have the time to answer all of those questions. So why did we build 2 pages? Well, one, this home page is more for trust building. It's more for giving context into the business itself. This landing page is a little bit more intentional about making that offer. It's kind of saying, hey, this is a product, are you interested in buying or not? It's making that ask, it's being forward. And as well as that, she might want to run ads specifically to the neurofeedback service. And if she's running ads to the service, maybe Google ads or Facebook, Instagram ads, or maybe she's hosting blogs on another, let's say like a business journal or a medicine journal, she wants people to come back specifically to that neurofeedback service. She doesn't want people to come to the homepage and then bounce everywhere else around the website. She wants people to come back to that specific product landing page, and they get a bunch of information. And the definition that I use of a landing page is that it has all of the information necessary for someone to move forward on that landing page. They don't need to go anywhere else. So, here, once again, you might not be able to see it, but there's testimonials. There's a bit about, the cost pricing structure. There's an FAQ. There's a little bit about her. There's benefits of neurofeedback. There's the benefits up here again, and there's a video. So they don't need to go anywhere else on the website. They should be, they should have enough context to be ready to move forward here. Next up. So, number 1, create clarity. What does that mean? So we want a clear and concise hero section. I'm going to explain what the hero section is. There's going to be some jargon in this talk, so I will try my best to break down what all of it means. So clear and concise hero section. This is the hero section. This is the first spot that you land on when you get to a website. And this really needs to communicate within 2 to 3 seconds exactly what it is that you do. That's kind of the industry standard. You need to communicate within a few seconds what it is that you do, or else people aren't going to understand. And confused users lead to really just people that are going to leave your site. So really quick, I'll actually blow this up in the next slide so that you can see it all. But one sec. You want users to immediately understand what you do within a few seconds of landing on your page. Don't try and be cute here. Don't have kind of catchy phrases. Be very specific. So this is that image. It says, design your mind, holistic, gentle treatment for whole brain wellness. Seattle medical practice specializing in neurofeedback for anxiety, ADHD, depression, trauma, and more. So she had people calling and asking, do you serve, other places in the country? So we have that Seattle keyword there. And this is a medical practice specializing in neurofeedback for anxiety, ADHD, and depression and trauma. And so all of these specific keywords are in there. People understand, okay, this is neurofeedback and this is what it's for. So this is explaining really quickly exactly what it is that she does. And then there's an image of her with a patient. The patient looks calm. She's not like screaming or in pain or anything. This is giving painting people the picture that, okay, I'm going to be in a nice comfy chair in this room with some plants in the background. This looks nice. Okay. So create clarity continued. Pepper in bits about yourself. I always say you cannot use stock photos, especially on this part of the website. Stock photos really don't communicate anything well. And so I always tell people, I call this a unique value proposition, YOU, unique value proposition. You are one of the biggest differentiators in your business. People aren't going to find you anywhere else. So put you on your website because people want to emotionally connect with a business before they move forward. Websites that show personality and showcase the people that work there are proven to convert better. People want to emotionally connect with a service. And this is once again, just that picture zoomed in. And just to give you an example, once again, be really clear. She has, as soon as you land on this homepage, her name, her image, it looks really approachable and nice. She has up here in the logo, licensed acupuncturist. And down here, the exact services that she provides: acupuncture, tuina, cupping therapy, Chinese herbs, and food recommendations. And so, this is being really clear. The landing page, the hero section that she had before we did this redesign for this business owner, it was a picture of a lotus flower and all these weird colors, and it didn't communicate anything well. And so get those stock photos off of your hero section, off of your homepage. And we're all business owners that we can afford to do some photography and get really communicate well exactly who we are and what we do on our homepage. Next up, communicate the benefits. So once again, everyone wants to know what is in it for them. So let them know. Lead with benefits over features. What does that mean? Well, you're going to talk about features. Most people are talking about, the features of working with their business versus another one, or what the specific features of their services offer. But first, lead with benefits, because people want to know, what am I here for? So here in this example, we have, relieve pain, improve sleep, achieve peak performance. And once again, these are examples from that neurofeedback landing page. Heal trauma. So it's likely that someone coming to this landing page is going to resonate with one of these. Almost everyone has one of these problems. They're going to come here, they're going to read a few of these and be like, oh, okay. Decrease anxiety. Yeah, that I need that. Improve sleep. Yep, I definitely need that. I'm a business owner. I never sleep. And so you want to explain to people what the benefits are of working with you and what the benefits are that they're going to receive from using your service. Same picture there. Here's some more examples from other websites I've built. This is a really quick and easy way to communicate benefits visually. We're visual creatures. You don't want to put everything in long form paragraphs on your website. These are really quick ways just to communicate exactly what people are going to get from working with you. And it's visually appealing, and they can get it in a really concise manner. Number 3, build trust. Like I said, this is one of my favorite ones. This utilizes the psychology principle of social proof, and this is what BNI is built upon. You already utilize this concept by being here today, and by being in BNI, if you are in BNI, use it in your marketing. Robert Cialdini, a very famous thought leader in the marketing industry, explains that, people are more likely to move forward with a service or product if they have seen that other people like them used it and have written a raving review about it or loved it enough to explain to them how they found it beneficial. So use reviews and testimonials. If you don't have one, set up a Google My Business. I saw that BNI did a webinar recently, and they explained how to set up a Google My Business. And so I would highly suggest setting one of those up if you don't have one, and send that link to people that you've done work with in the past and ask them, hey, I set up my Google My Business. Can you please give me a few reviews? Put those reviews on your website, because once again, this utilizes that social principle of social proof. So people can see, hey, other people have used this and they loved it. Next up, other ways you can utilize this principle: features, case studies, and special certifications, but we'll go into examples of that up next. Oh, and then I have a quote here: earn trust, earn trust, earn trust, then you can worry about the rest. And that is by Seth Godin, the thought leader in the marketing industry. So, reviews and testimonials. I have this note here: be very intentional about which reviews and testimonials you pick. What do I mean by that? So you don't want to just kind of pick at random a review or testimonial. You want to pick the ones, look for the keywords that other people, like most of the traffic on your website that is coming in, what kinds of concerns they have, what kinds of objections that they have, what kinds of questions that they have. Pick the reviews or testimonials that answer those or speak to those. So here, she has this one down here. Let's see. Dr. Jessica Wendling is an extraordinary healthcare provider. She sees the whole person. She helped me recover from major depression with her exceptional listening skills, empathy, kindness, and vast knowledge of naturopathic practices. And so she knows that, many of her patients do suffer from depression. And she knows that those people really want this empathy, this kindness. And so she picked that one to put there because she knows that that's going to speak very directly to a large part of her audience. So be intentional about which testimonials you pick. This is another way to build trust and social proof. Showcase where you've been featured. And this establishes authority. It shows that people want to hear what you have to say. And so this is from an interior designer here in Seattle called K&L Interiors. And of course, you probably won't be able to use this unless you've really been in your industry for a while and your work has been maybe posted in magazines or other blog posts, or you've been on podcasts. But this is one of those that you can use if you've been in your industry for a while and you've done things like talks. And so they've been featured in all of these amazing, architecture and interior design articles and magazines. And that builds that social proof, that builds trust, that shows people, oh, wow, they're a very established figure in the design world. Another one, case studies. This is from a business management consulting company that I worked for recently. And these 3 little case study snippets are on their homepage. And what I mentioned here is this goes beyond saying this is what we do, which everyone is saying, hey, this is what we do. We do these services and these services. And instead it says, this is what we've done in the past. These are results that we've actually gotten for people. And so there are a few case studies on the homepage. And then when you go into each specific one, it goes over the overview of that case study, the challenge. And this is kind of going beyond the homepage, of course. But I'm just giving you an example of what else you can do on the website to build trust. It goes through the overview, the challenge, our solution, the outcome, a few of the services rendered. This is a great idea, especially if you haven't been featured elsewhere, or if you don't have tons of reviews yet. This is one way that you can build social proof yourself. You can create a case study from a recent client. If you ask them for a review or a testimonial, you can post that at the bottom. What I've been doing recently is actually doing Zoom interviews with my clients, and then recording those and kind of piecing them together and getting video testimonials. And then if you had that at the end of this case study, a happy client that was saying great things about you, imagine how amazed someone would be and how ready they might be to move forward with your service. Next up, educate and offer value. So this utilizes the rule of reciprocity. Take the time to educate your potential customers. Create a free ebook or some kind of free resource. I'm sure many of you have seen this across the web. It is really just a downloadable piece of content that you have on your website homepage that you've made yourself. You're not taking this from someone else. You've made it yourself, and it doesn't have to, take a ton of your time or energy. But we're all experts in our own industry, right? And so we can create some kind of valuable piece of information, put it on our homepage, allow people to download it, and all we ask for in return is their email. So when you do this, you do two things when you take the time to educate your customers. You, one, add value to them prior to asking for anything in return. This builds trust, and once again, this utilizes that rule of reciprocity. And two, it establishes you as the authority figure in the field. So once again, add value. Were you about to say something, Steve?
I was just going to say, I think this is one of the most important things anybody can do. If you want to build your list and send out a regular email to your clients, this is a great way to do it. And when people think about ebooks, you don't have to write a 200-page book. It can be 10 pages of good content.
And yeah, to everybody, Steve is actually a copywriter. So, he if anyone is talking about this, it should be him. And I highly suggest hiring a copywriter whenever you get into a redesign of your website, or if you're creating blogs or doing an email, any kind of email marketing. Hire a copywriter. Talk to Steve Tanujo. Talk to the copywriter in your BNI group. It's so important, and it's one of those things that, along with web design, that some business owners kind of write off as like, is this necessary? I think it absolutely is, and copywriters really know how to simplify material, how to communicate effectively. And us, as masters of our own industry, usually we use too much jargon. I might have done that in this talk. That's why I use copywriters. Even for my own website, I hired a copywriter, and I'm a web designer, because you really want to say clearly, concisely, and effectively to your customers exactly what it is that you do. And it's hard to do that when you're the kind of bias, like you're in the center of all of it. So add value to your customers prior to asking for anything in return. And during this project with Dr. Jessica Wendling, she actually hired a copywriter to create this ebook. So we created this ebook, and we created this, what's called a lead magnet. This is a lead magnet on her website. And if someone wants to download this, all they have to give is their name, their email, and then they get this free resource. So this is adding huge value to their lives. 6 pillars of brain health prior to them, committing to using her services or anything like that. And so I put this quote here: "We are obligated to give back to others the form of behavior that they have given first to us. Essentially, thou shalt not take without giving in return." And that's by Robert Cialdini. Once again, a thought leader in the marketing industry. I actually have this book right here. It's called Influence. Really good book. So when you make a free offering in return for a user's email address, you are now growing your email list, like Steve just said, which you can use to stay top of mind with your audience. So here on the left, you see all the top brands in the consumer's mind. And I put here, this is your business. Imagine your business. There is some space in this brain for your brand, for your company, if you utilize this tactic. So I have the skeptical baby here saying, "You mean to tell me I can have top of mind awareness?" And yes, that's right, folks. You can with these tactics. So this is a nurture email. Am I doing it right on time, Steve? I think you're muted.
Yeah, there we go. We are right at 12:27, so we've got a few more minutes, and then we'll go right into Q&A.
Sounds good. So this nurture email campaign. Whenever somebody downloads that free ebook, they get this nurture email sequence. So what is this? So this is just the first one, but this is a sequence of 4 emails. And this email has more information, it has that free download, social media links, So it's more likely that they'll actually follow her on other platforms and what they can expect over the next few days. And I put here, oh, and then the link back to the website. And then this is that email sequence that people are getting followed up with after they download that piece of content. And this can be as big or as small as you'd like. We have about 4 emails in her initial sequence that people get. And so this is allowing her to stay top of mind in people's brains. And then, she'll be also sending out a monthly newsletter in perpetuity. So I have that as kind of like the last step. If you want this top of mind awareness for your brand or your company, use tactics like this and then actually follow up. Do that consistent follow up with a monthly email. And then lastly, 5, I'll try to wrap it up quickly, make it easy for them to take action. And really, at the end of the day, this is just stylized buttons, and place them everywhere that the user might be convinced to take the next step with you. These are some examples of buttons. The primary call to action is anything leading someone to the main commitment. What is that main commitment? To working, get them closer to working with you. This is your preferred method for them to enter your funnel. Examples are book a call, schedule a visit, buy now, contact us, free consultation. This is a stylized button using the primary brand coloring or something that complements it, leading to your primary call to action, and then use a second styling for all other buttons leading elsewhere on your site. Because once again, you want that consistency. You want people to understand, okay, this button leads to the primary call to action. All of these other ones lead to other things on the site that aren't as important. I have a couple notes here. Friction is one of the biggest obstacles to sales. It is your job as a business owner to reduce that friction at every step. Do this on your website by making the next step very clear. It drives me absolutely banana sandwich when I'm on a business website and they have a ton of information, but they don't have like that really clear call to action outlining what the next step is to working with them. It drives me crazy. And then I have here, confused users lead to frustrated users, which lead to lost leads and lost revenue. So don't confuse people. This is a quote by Steve Krug, who is a usability expert. Web design is simply advanced common sense, and it's my job to implement that common sense into people's websites and landing pages. And then if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, these are not hard and fast rules. All of these things that I've explained to you today, they're more what you'd call guidelines, okay? So don't feel like you have to utilize these. They're more like guidelines. I placed a book recommendation here for all of you. If you want, once again, if you want these slides, I think Steve will send those out, or there will also be the video posted. But this is a really good book to explain to people, and I have it right here. Kind of explain to people what kind of story you have to tell on your website homepage to get people to understand what it is that you do. And I've actually been reading this recently with clients to get them into the mind of their customers and help them understand how to write better content writing and build a better homepage. So to wrap it all up, these are the benefits that you will get if you utilize these principles: increasing your revenue, saving more time, getting predictable results. Implement these principles and you will get more qualified and consistent leads, which will give you the foundation that we all need to build a thriving business. And lastly, if you want to get a hold of me, our website is here, mindfulweb.co. That's .co, not .com. Couldn't get the .com. It's all right. And on Instagram, @mindfulweb.co. And my phone number is right there. If you want to call me, beat me. If you want to reach me, text me. I'm always open. I'd love to schedule a one-to-one or a meeting with anyone that wants to learn more about how to utilize these principles on their own website. I offer a free initial consultation to anybody that's interested. And this is just a picture of me creeping over my website. So yeah, that wraps everything up. I really appreciate everyone coming today.
That's a great photo. I love that. All right, hey, let's jump into Q&A. We've got some questions, and let's see what we can get answered. Grace asks, what are your thoughts about pop-up contact forms?
Great question. So if you remember, I just explained the lead magnet, that downloadable piece of content. I don't think pop-ups are great unless you're offering something like that. I actually do utilize pop-ups when a client of mine has gone ahead and created something like that, so something like one of these lead magnets or downloadable pieces of content, that's really the only way you want to utilize a pop-up. Because if you're not, if you're just saying, hey, contact me, it's kind of like empty value. But if you offer something like that free guide or some other free resource, it's actually really offering value before you ask for something in return. So I kind of always use that rule, like, don't ask for something unless you're offering something in return first. And I think that pop-up is just kind of like an annoying way of saying, hey, call me if sometimes websites set up so it's like an exit intense pop-up, where the second you hover over like the top right hand corner, it pops up. And if you're not really offering anything there besides just call me, it's kind of like an empty ask is the way that I think of it. So create that free resource and put that into a pop-up. Absolutely.
All right, excellent. Jalen says, what web design software do you use or recommend?
So I use WordPress. I think it's like 35% of the web is on WordPress, and it's ever growing. You have all of these other softwares that pop up, and some of them are here to stick around. Some of them are going to be gone tomorrow, but WordPress is definitely here to stay. And it's what I used to build my very first website, and I've stuck with it ever since. And on WordPress, I use the page builder Elementor. So why do I choose Elementor? There's hundreds of page builders and themes on WordPress. I use Elementor because it has the biggest audience. It has the biggest circle of developers and business owners that utilize it, and so it has the most resources by the way of like tutorials and resources and YouTube videos and articles. And so whenever I have a question, because I have questions about the page builder itself all the time, I can go to YouTube, ask that question, figure it out immediately because there's like 10 tutorials about it. And then along with that, when I hand the website over to a business owner, I don't have to leave them empty-handed. I can give them a playlist of tutorials and say, hey, if you want to add a blog to your website, or if you want to change the color here or add a logo here, this is how you do it. And I can send them a tutorial if they want to do it themselves. Of course, I love working with business owners in that ongoing relationship, but if they want to do it themselves, they can. So Elementor is great for that.
All right, and that answers Jocelyn's question as well. Andy asks, his business is a franchise and they control the web portal. Is it possible to add a landing page before that portal?
That's a great question. So they control the web portals. I guess I would have to have a little bit more context.
My guess is that they have the main site that the franchisees use, and so he's trying to kind of come up with something ahead of that.
That's a great question. I would say whatever. So I wish I could talk, and this is Andy, right?
Yep.
I wish I could talk to you directly. I'll kind of make some inferences and answer based upon that. Let's say you're using WordPress or one of these other page builders. You could absolutely just use that same software, build another website, and then either direct people instead of to the homepage directly to that page. But what I would suggest doing is just turn the homepage that you already have into, utilizing all the information that we have today, depending on the software that you have.
All right. Daphne's asking about, Daphne is asking about what is a good landing page for a nonprofit company or business?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I would say, so a great landing page is really just utilizing all of these principles on your homepage. I don't think you have to make, a separate one. I would just say all these principles that we learned today, and with the examples that I offered, utilize all of them on your homepage. Especially as a nonprofit, I don't know how big it is. Maybe you don't have a ton of resources to add more information or build other landing pages elsewhere. I would say just turn the homepage into a long form page that has all of these examples that I showed today, utilizing your context.
Okay, great. Do you have a recommendation for a WordPress theme for a nonprofit? Oh, there's another nonprofit. Welcome, nonprofits. Glad you're here today.
Oh, and I guess maybe this was her question as well. A separate landing page besides the homepage for a nonprofit might be, if you have a specific cause that, because I explain, a service or product for most businesses, that might be a reason they build a separate landing page besides the homepage. But a specific landing page for a nonprofit might be like one cause or another that they want to divert a lot of attention towards. And if you're doing a lot of outbound marketing, like on Instagram, if you're posting on Facebook, if you're doing blog posts elsewhere, you want people to go directly to that specific cause, where you have a long form page explaining a lot more about that you think, people might, whatever your call to action is, whether it is donate or what have you. If they learn more about that, then create a landing page for that and then direct people directly to that URL instead of the homepage. I hope that answers your question.
All right. Lisa's asking a very direct question. Have you done real estate websites before? Somebody may be getting in contact with you. I don't know.
I actually have, and I'm working on one right now here in Seattle. I'm working on a company called Blue Pacific Real Estate, and I am currently in the final phase of that launch, and we should be launching here in a few weeks. So yeah, I'd be happy to show an example if someone wants to get a hold of me. But yes, real estate websites. Actually, the example that I used recently of doing video testimonials. So I'm doing Zoom interviews with that agent's clients because, when I first took that project, I was a little bit nervous because I said, there's thousands of real estate agents in the Seattle area. They're all saying the same exact things. Like, how do I set this guy apart from everyone else? And so I had to be really intentional about what I'm going to put on the homepage to really express that this guy is far and above one of the best real estate agents in the area, and his last website wasn't doing any of that. So yeah.
Okay, so actually Lisa followed up with a question. She says that she's used several companies and hasn't had luck getting good leads.
I guess I would have a question for her. Like, have they made homepages that utilize all of these examples? Have I would say, I don't want to talk bad about any of the web designers that might be in your BNI groups, but the majority of web designers don't think like business owners. They don't think with this like sales psychology in mind. And they're just really building pretty websites. And so that's the problem I find usually when I pick up a website redesign. It's because a business owner has had a website for 4 or 5 years, but it hasn't done anything for them. And that's because, if a web designer really just builds it with the intent of making it look pretty, it might not have had a professional copywriter that had really direct, effective sales copy. It might not have utilized all these principles to make someone, foster trust while they're on that homepage. And so, you got to ask before you hire somebody, anybody for any service, you got to really ask the question, like, is this going to have that return on an investment, and how? And so, unfortunately, a lot of people in the digital marketing industry, they, it's one of those industries that you can kind of enter. Just, anyone with a laptop can start building websites, just like I did 3 years ago. And so you have some people that they're not as professional. They don't really know what they're doing. And they build these websites that aren't really communicating anything effectively.
Yeah, Lisa, I would say just, I think it's worth getting in touch with Tori and just having a conversation, see if it makes sense for you. Okay, let's see. My website has a lot of great Google reviews, but it has a complicated URL. How can I create a simple URL website and still have the Google reviews?
That's a really good question. Some of these questions are hard to answer without having more context about them. But I actually had this problem just the other day with a professional organizer that I just launched a website for here in the Seattle area. And her old website was built on Wix, and we built a new website in WordPress using the Elementor page builder. And so the old website had it was this .com/index HTML, and it had this weird index HTML on at the end of all of the URLs. And so I had to fix that in the URL structure, but that was in the database. So, it's kind of hard to explain. I don't think it's something that I could explain now, but it's basically you have to fix that in the database, or depending on if you have Squarespace and you don't pay for it, Sometimes you have like your website is like squarespace.com / whatever your service name is. And so it's all dependent upon the website builder that you use. But I would suggest honestly just Googling, how to simplify URL structure utilizing WordPress or utilizing whichever website yours is built in.
Tiffany's got a great question. Is it beneficial to present a niche on your website, or better to keep it general?
That's a great question. That's kind of one of those problems that, what I propose today is solving, because her homepage, Jessica, she has 3 services. She has neurofeedback, but she also does craniosacral therapy, and she also has brain health testing. And so if someone lands on our homepage, we do have neurofeedback as kind of the priority on the homepage. That's communicated very well. However, there are those other 3 services. So there's ways, like let's say you have a specific, one specific service that you want to offer more so, or you have a specific niche that you want to target. I think niches are great to target on your homepage because you're talking directly to that person. And you get to utilize really the problems that the people in that niche are having. But what this does is it definitely does speak directly to them. And I think it's more powerful with those business owners, but it kind of does corner out the people outside of that niche. So if you are really serious about niching down, yes, I would say definitely communicate about that niche on your website. But if you're still kind of concerned and you want to make sure that you still get leads from outside that niche, I wouldn't do it just yet. And this is actually something that I'm facing right now. I love working with individuals in the home improvements industry, like architects and contractors and interior designers, all the trades. But I have chosen for myself not to specifically express that on my website yet, because I'm not ready to just commit to that industry yet. I love working with everyone. And so, yeah, it's kind of up to your goals.
Kind of like BNI, isn't it? Where you would just, be very specific about what you're looking for to grab those referrals as people are being drawn to you based on those very specific requests you've got instead of your general ones, right?
Exactly.
Do you see the same value between a testimonial copied and pasted into your site versus embedding third-party review tools testimonials into your page?
Ooh, great question. This is a really good question. I think that there's a lot of power in these review tools because a lot of them provide, some automation. I met recently with a business owner here in Seattle. Ignite Reviews is his company, and he does this review automation. Great company. And I think there's a lot of value in those tools because beyond just providing that, it looks really professional. Like I've seen it on many of the websites. There are a couple on some of my clients' websites, and I think they're worth it more so for the presentation. Sometimes looks really good, and as a web designer, I can really make any kind of presentation. I can make it look exactly like those review softwares if that's what you want. But it's more of a really easy automatic way so that someone else doesn't have to build it. If you want to just copy the code, throw it into your website without a web developer or a designer creating those reviews in an aesthetic manner, that's one kind of, I guess, benefit of utilizing those. And then, like I mentioned, the automation, there's ways that you can kind of tie those into your workflow or your CRM. So when you finish a project with someone, you can send them the link to that review gathering software. And this is how you continuously gain reviews. This is how your Google My Business continuously grows over the course of years. And it's kind of how you squeeze the most out of each project. It's one of those ways that, it kind of falls by the wayside sometimes when we're really busy and we have one project after another as business owners, but you want to make it really easy on yourself to make sure that after each project, you remind people, hey, had a great time. Would you be willing to provide a review on my Google My Business or utilizing this software? And so I think that's where the value of it is more than anything, is the ease of adding it to your website, and 2, the ease of sending it out to customers.
Okay, Jocelyn is asking about a simple source for how to add basic SEO to a website.
Great question. Simple source for, well, I would say, simple source for how to add basic SEO.
I mean,
There's
there are
so
little
many.
plugins, right, that you could use, like
Oh,
Yoast and
yes.
things like that.
Great. Yes. Thank you for that reminder. So Yoast SEO is an amazing plugin that you can utilize. I would suggest, this is the most direct because I was thinking about, like courses and all this other stuff, like YouTube tutorials and channels, but that's a great direction, Steve. I would say download that if you have WordPress. Once again, this is only if you have WordPress. If you have other page builders, check out what the best SEO plugin is for your page builder. But if you have WordPress, download Yoast and then just watch some YouTube tutorials. I would say, watch 2 or 3 YouTube tutorials on how to use Yoast to add the right keywords to each page that you're building so that Google can index those pages properly. That's really the fastest way. I mean, even SEO professionals that I work with, I use Yoast for all my websites. The SEO experts that I work with, they all use Yoast. It's kind of an industry standard. And so I would say download Yoast and watch a few tutorials, and you're going to have better SEO than 80% of business owners out there.
Yeah, Yoast does a really nice job of kind of grading what you've written in there to see if you can improve it or not. So yeah,
absolutely.
For AI, it works really well.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. I see almost every website asks for putting in cookies. Why do they need that? And is there any way to avoid putting cookies in the readers' computers?
That's a great question. So this whole movement for making sure that you have this cookies, that's a part of all of this like GDPR compliance and things like that. All of this like website compliance or web compliance and new laws that are coming out. I don't utilize it personally. I don't utilize it on my own clients' websites just because it's one of those things that, to be honest, you don't have to do right now. It's kind of one of those gray areas. And so, as these laws get more strict, I would just keep an eye on what those, like what the specific guidelines are. But to be honest, I personally don't utilize those on my own websites. Do you have any input on that, Steve?
I agree. I do see it more and more often, and it's can be frustrating sometimes because you don't necessarily want to be dragged towards all of these different advertisements and giving up all this personal information. But we're kind of, if you're going to play in that field, it's going to happen anyway. Right. And that's
Exactly.
why, one minute you're on a website and next you're on Facebook and there's that ad for you. And it's kind of creepy and weird, but it's kind of what's out there,
Exactly.
Okay, last question from David. I saved this one for last because it's the one that comes up all the time. He also owns a web design company and has, I guess, probably a frustration talking about the importance of the web presence, and people think they just need social media. So how do you explain that to to business owners who have poor websites, but think, well, we're just going to bet it all on social?
Great question, Dave. So I would try explaining to them, social media is great. I highly suggest that everyone is on there. As you can see, I have an Instagram. I wouldn't say I'm not as active as I would like to be, but it's amazing, but it doesn't answer all of the questions, right? Social media is more so for people to stay connected with you. It's it's a great way for people it basically offers another way for you to stay top of mind with your users besides this email list. Of course, social media is one of the best and easiest ways to do that. It has a low barrier to entry, but it doesn't answer all the questions that people have because, whenever you get to a business's Instagram or Facebook, the next thing they do from there is always go to that link that's in the header. And so they're going to go to that link because they want to know more information. They want to go to that business's website to get the rest of their questions answered. Viewing a business on Instagram is really more so just to, get an idea of what they're doing, see what they're up to, maybe see some examples from projects, but it's not going to answer all of the questions. Just the way that it's laid out, like you have to look at posts individually and you're kind of like guessing what each one is going to communicate to. And so a website is more of like an intentional way of explaining in a really clear, like hierarchical manner this is what we do, this is the benefits, utilizing all those principles that I explained today. Because I guarantee, like there's actually studies done on this. Like people aren't just going to move forward with purchasing from a company directly from their Instagram. And how would that offer a call to action anyway? Like if you just have a company Instagram or Facebook and that's it, there isn't even, I don't think there's even a way on Instagram to share your number. So there needs to be some other kind of landing page for them to get to. And how much more likely are people going to be to use that service if their landing page has all of these really intentional principles? That's kind of how I express it. To be honest though, I find that most business owners get that already. And that's kind of one of those things, I think, Dave, that if you're fighting against that idea, that business owner might not be the best to work with at that point, because that's kind of one of, like, to be honest, most of the people I work with, they already understand that, I need a website. It needs to be strong. And then I educate with all of these principles. Once they understand, okay, I need a website, that's when I add all these other, add all the context to get them to understand what the potential of a website could be.
Yeah, I mean, I always think of social media as places where I can show people what I offer. But ultimately, the goal is to get them onto my website so they can call me, set up an appointment, or make a purchase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that is. Oh wait, hold on. Something else. We have one last question in Q&A regarding GDPR. Technically, it is my understanding that an EU citizen visiting Seattle and interacting with your website, you could be liable for privacy issues for them. Again, it's a gray area, as they would be an EU citizen trying to sue you. So yeah, not.
That is absolutely a great question. I will be completely honest. I'm definitely not an expert on GDPR compliance. I would suggest, looking up some articles and YouTube videos. I don't want to answer this, with clear confidence that it's correct, because there's constantly new laws coming out. But once again, this is kind of one of those things that's still a really big gray area, and it's not going to hurt you yet if you're following all, like if you're an American company not following EU GDPR compliance, it's not going to hurt you whatsoever. Google's not going to ding you.
Yeah.
And so, and you're not going to get sued, and that's not going to stand up in an American court. So I would say, for now, don't worry about it. But once again, don't take that as legal professional advice, please. I'm not your lawyer. And so, yeah, I would say look into it.
All right. So we're going to wrap up right here. No, not Corey. I'm sorry. It's Lisa. I called you Corey. Lisa, Tori's contact info is right there, and his website is mindfulweb.co, not com, and you can check him out there, or follow him, or give him a call directly. So can everyone else who has any questions about landing pages or anything related to web design. So Tori, thanks so much for being on today. This was a really good one. Lots of great questions from everybody.
Thank you so much. Oh yeah, I didn't put my email there, but let me drop that into the chat real quick. Do I have the chat?
Yeah.
Cool.